A heavy slap echoed across the university courtyard. The sound was so loud that conversation stopped instantly. Students turned around, wondering who had just been hit. James stood frozen, one hand covering his burning cheek. Standing before him was Ada, the most admired and popular girl on campus. She slowly lowered her hand, staring at him with nothing but disgust. Tears began forming in James' eyes, but he refused to let them fall. He had spent weeks gathering the courage to speak to her. Every word he planned had disappeared from his mind the moment the slap landed. "Did you really think someone like you could ask me out?" Ada said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. Students immediately gathered around them. Some were recording with their phones. Others whispered among themselves. James tried to explain. "Ada, I wasn't trying to embarrass you. I just wanted to tell you how I feel." Ada laughed. It wasn't an ordinary laugh. It was the kind of laugh meant to humiliate someone. "You." She looked him up and down before continuing. "I don't date losers." The crowd burst into laughter. "I don't date useless poor second-class citizens like you." Another wave of laughter erupted. "Do you even own decent clothes?" She pointed at his worn-out shoes. "I've seen beggars dressed better than you." James lowered his head. His hands trembled. He wished the ground would open and swallow him. But Ada wasn't done. "Asking me out is already a stain on my dignity." Those words pierced his heart like knives. Someone from the crowd shouted, "James, go and find someone in your tax bracket." Another student yelled, "Maybe she can date you in your dreams." The entire courtyard exploded with laughter. James could barely breathe. He felt as though every eye on campus was judging him. Slowly, he bent down to pick up the small gift box he had intended to give Ada. The chocolates inside had scattered across the floor. One student accidentally stepped on them. Another kicked the flowers aside. The gift he had saved money for over 2 months was destroyed within seconds. James quietly gathered the crushed flowers. He didn't say another word. Without looking back, he walked away. The laughter followed him until he disappeared around the corner. Behind the engineering building, James finally stopped. He leaned against the wall and slid to the ground. For the first time in years, he cried. Not because Ada rejected him, but because of how she made him feel worthless. He looked up at the sky. "I may be poor today," he whispered, "but I won't remain poor forever. I don't know how. I don't know when. But one day, people will respect me, not because of money, but because I refuse to give up." At that very moment, someone was watching him. It was Professor Daniel. The elderly lecturer had witnessed everything from a distance. He walked over and sat beside James without saying a word. After several minutes, he finally spoke. "Pain can destroy a man, or it can build one." James wiped his tears. "I'm tired of being looked down on, sir." Professor Daniel nodded. "Then change your future." James looked confused. "How?" The professor smiled. "By becoming the kind of man whose value isn't determined by the size of his wallet." Those words stayed with James. He thanked the professor and slowly walked home. Home wasn't a mansion. It wasn't even an apartment. It was a tiny one-room building at the edge of town. The roof leaked whenever it rained. The walls had cracks everywhere. The wooden door barely closed. Inside lived only 2 people. James and his grandmother. She was over 70 years old but still sold roasted corn by the roadside every day just to keep food on their table. As James entered, she immediately noticed his swollen cheek. "My son. What happened?" James forced a smile. "I fell." She knew he was lying, but she didn't ask further. Instead, she gently placed her wrinkled hand on his face. You don't have to tell me now. But remember this. No matter what this world says about you, never believe you're worthless. James could no longer hold back. He hugged his grandmother tightly. She was the only person who had never looked down on him. That night, after she fell asleep, James sat outside under the moonlight. He opened an old notebook. Inside were dozens of business ideas he had been writing since secondary school. Most people laughed whenever he spoke about becoming wealthy. But James had never stopped dreaming. He wrote one sentence across a blank page. Success is the loudest reply to humiliation. Then he underlined it 3 times. That sentence became his daily motivation. Months passed. James graduated with excellent grades, while many classmates celebrated with expensive parties. James couldn't even afford a proper graduation photograph. He borrowed a friend's gown, returned it immediately after the ceremony, and quietly went home. The next morning, his search for work began. He submitted application after application, interview after interview, rejection after rejection. We'll call you. Nobody ever did. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Money became scarce. Even paying transport fare became difficult. Yet every morning, James woke before sunrise. He refused to quit. One afternoon, while helping an elderly mechanic repair generators to earn a little money, the mechanic noticed something unusual. You learn fast. James smiled. I've always loved solving problems. The mechanic nodded. People chase quick money, but real wealth belongs to those who solve difficult problems. James never forgot those words either. Every lesson life taught him, he wrote inside that notebook. Slowly, his mindset began to change. He stopped thinking about becoming rich overnight. Instead, he focused on becoming valuable. Little did he know, that decision would change everything. Meanwhile, Ada's life couldn't have been more different. She spent nearly every weekend in expensive restaurants. She believed only wealthy men deserved her attention. Whenever a man approached her, the first question she asked wasn't, "What kind of person are you?" It was, "What car do you drive?" Her friends admired her standards. They called her smart. They called her classy. But deep inside, Ada had unknowingly built her entire life around one thing: money. She believed money determined a person's worth. She had no idea the poor young man she humiliated was quietly preparing to become someone the entire country would soon know. And when that day finally arrived, the same slap that made everyone laugh would become the biggest mistake of her life. James had no idea that the hardest chapter of his life was only beginning. The morning after another unsuccessful job interview, he checked his wallet. Inside was a single 50 naira note. He stared at it for several seconds before letting out a quiet sigh. "Grandma," he called softly, "have you eaten?" His grandmother smiled, hiding the truth. "Yes, my son." But James knew she was lying. The pot on the stove was empty. She had skipped breakfast so he could have the last meal from the previous night. That moment broke something inside him. He promised himself that no matter what happened, his grandmother would never go hungry again. The same afternoon, James walked around town searching for any kind of work. He carried bricks at construction sites. He washed cars. He repaired broken generators with the elderly mechanic who had taken a liking to him. At night, while others slept, James watched free business lessons online at a neighborhood cyber cafe. Since he couldn't afford internet access, the cafe owner allowed him to stay after closing in exchange for helping clean the shop. Every single day followed the same routine. Work, learn, pray, repeat. Months passed. One evening, The elderly mechanic handed James an old generator. "It doesn't work," the mechanic said. "If you can repair it, you can keep whatever profit you make from selling it." James worked on the machine until midnight. His hands were covered in grease. His back ached. Just as he was about to give up, the generator roared to life. He smiled so widely that tears filled his eyes. It wasn't just a repaired machine. It was hope. James sold the generator a few days later. Instead of spending the money, he bought more damaged generators, repaired them, and sold them again. The profits were small, but they were growing. Weeks turned into months. Soon, people from neighboring towns began bringing broken generators to him. "Take it to James," they would say. "If anyone can fix it, he can." For the first time in his life, James wasn't chasing money. Money was beginning to chase him. One afternoon, while delivering a repaired generator to a small manufacturing company, he noticed something unusual. The company threw away hundreds of damaged electrical components every month. To everyone else, they looked like useless scrap. To James, they looked like opportunity. He politely asked the manager if he could buy the discarded parts at a low price. The manager laughed. "You actually want this junk?" James nodded confidently. The manager shrugged. "If you can carry it, it's yours." James borrowed a small truck from a friend and transported everything home. For weeks, he sorted, cleaned, repaired, and rebuilt the components. Then he began selling them online and to local businesses. Demand exploded. Within 6 months, he hired his first employee. Then his second. Then his 10th. His tiny workshop became a thriving business. Companies that had once ignored him were now calling him every day. Investors wanted meetings. Banks offered loans. Business magazines wrote articles about the young entrepreneur who turned scrap into millions. The same people who once pitied James now admired him. Exactly 1 year after the slap, James drove through the city in a brand new Rolls-Royce. Not to show off. Not to seek revenge. But because years of sacrifice had finally paid off. He had also purchased a beautiful mansion for himself and his grandmother. The day she walked into the house, she stood silently in the living room. Her eyes wandered across the polished floors, elegant furniture, and spacious rooms. She turned toward James with tears streaming down her face. "My son, is this really ours?" James smiled warmly. "Yes, Grandma. No more leaking roofs. No more sleeping hungry. No more suffering." She hugged him tightly. "I always knew God would honor your hard work." James held her hand. "And none of this would have meant anything if you had stopped believing in me." Life had changed. But James hadn't. He still greeted everyone respectfully. He still helped struggling students with school fees. He quietly paid hospital bills for people who couldn't afford treatment. He never posted his generosity online. He believed kindness didn't need an audience. One evening, James attended a charity fundraiser. That was where he met Sophia. Unlike everyone else, Sophia had no idea he was the wealthy businessman sponsoring the event. She accidentally spilled a drink on his suit. "Oh my goodness," she exclaimed. "I'm so sorry." James laughed. "It's just a suit." She insisted on paying for the dry cleaning. He refused politely. Instead of arguing, she smiled. "Then let me at least buy you dinner to apologize." James accepted. Over dinner, they talked for hours. Not once did Sophia ask how much money he made. She wanted to know about his dreams, his childhood, his grandmother, his struggles. For the first time in years, James felt truly seen. Over the following months, their friendship blossomed into love. Sophia admired James for his character, not his wealth. She often told him, The richest thing about you isn't your bank account. It's your heart. Those words meant more to James than any business award he had ever received. A few months later, under a sky filled with stars, James got down on one knee. Sophia, you loved me without asking what I owned. You respected me without knowing my past. Will you marry me? Sophia covered her mouth in surprise. With tears of joy in her eyes, she whispered, "Yes." The couple embraced as applause filled the garden. Neither of them noticed someone standing across the street, watching from a parked car. A former university classmate had recognized James. He quickly snapped several photos of James and Sophia together. The next morning, those photos found their way into a group chat filled with James' former classmates. One message read, "Remember the poor guy they slapped? Look at him now." Within minutes, the chat exploded with reactions. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. The boy everyone mocked had become one of the city's youngest millionaires. And the news was about to reach the one person who never imagined she would hear his name again. Ada.